You're listening to Search Marketing Academy, the Optmyzr podcast about the wide world of search marketing and how everything that happens before, after, and around an ad click affects PPC campaign performance. Join me as I learn from the finest talent in copywriting, creative, SEO and site experience, UI, UX, CRO, agency and team leadership, and of course, paid media. I'm your host, Ashwin. I'm the head of marketing at Optmyzr. We're building tools and automation to help PPC teams run campaigns their way. Find us at optmyzr.com. That's OPTMYZR.com. Check out our other series, PPC Town Hall, our blog, videos, and much more. And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a rating in the podcast app of your choice. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Hey folks, I'm Cynthia. I am a managing director of Cynthia's Marketing, which is a growth consultancy firm. And that can get a little convoluted, but we really manage advertising campaigns for Facebook, Google, and then optimize the landing pages and then some email, SMS retention stuff. That's a lot of fun. That's really it about me. I started off in paid advertising, specifically Google ads. And now I feel like the majority of my clients are maybe like the spend shifts from 60% Meta and 40% Google, but the two really go hand in hand.
Well, I know you recently had a great experience with a company that does brand and organic well. You were in Austin for the Whalies by Triple Whale. Tell me a little bit about that. How was the experience?
That was amazing. I connected with a lot of cool marketers, and again, like emphasis on marketers because they're so much more than technicians. Like specifically Charlie, I forget his last name, but Charlie's really big on the Twitter space, and he runs Disruptor School. And, Charlie positions himself as a media buyer. But at the end of the day, he's really a growth consultant. I think all of the best media buyers are either business consultants or growth consultants, right? They're directly tying their efforts to revenue and growth. My spiel, it's sustainable and it's over time, specifically for bootstrap companies, right? But each and every one of those marketers that are amazing, like managing well over $1 million in ad spend per month. They're business consultants. They understand how to build a business. They've probably done it themselves. Like that's the point where I'm at, where I'm like, okay, that's what I'm doing. Like I've done some drop shipping stuff, but it's like, I really need to understand like the issues with manufacturing. So I'm kind of building that on the side, but yeah, they've all had that experience, and that's why they're like the top of the top. So connecting with them and then also validating a lot of my own hypotheses and like stepping outside of can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, getting out of my own ass and like really like analyzing like, is this like, what do you think about this is like, versus that, or, what do you really feel about TikTok? Which I've always felt like it's not a good use of, it depends on the brand, right? But like my perspective is that it's not really effective, and you're better off using that budget into Meta, which has just, especially the past year, has been more efficient in CPA. Again, I'd love to be proven wrong, and I have been proven wrong, but it's also depending on the AOV. Like Rabba, the CMO of Triple Whale, actually went off on a tangent, which I found really interesting. He was like, I have this theory. And this theory is that if you're under a certain AOV, like you'll perform better on TikTok because people do more impulse buying versus like higher AOVs. And based on my experience, I'm like, oh yeah, he freaking nailed it. Although there was someone with their exception in the room, So like ideas like that, refining that thought, like everyone has a hypothesis because I find that marketers are like very critical thinkers, at least the growth marketers that are real marketers, right? That are more than just technicians. They're really critical thinkers, and they're developing these hypotheses, and they want to kind of refine that thought. And that's the best way to do it, with a bunch of thinkers in the same room, and such a cool environment too. Like Alexa, like the whole team at Triple Whale knocked it out the park. It was amazing. And then also getting drunk with like these people was awesome. Like
I mean, you got to do something in the snow, right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't snow, it was ice, which is also weird. Like, because I live in New York.
Even better reason to drink.
Yeah, all the reason, honestly. Yeah, I live in New York, so I'm used to the cold, but I guess it's because the humidity, like there was like ice on the trees and it was crazy, but that didn't really bother us. Like we were still out there, and they threw an incredible event. It was so much fun. So much learnings, again, from like the top D2C brands, the people managing the top D2C brands, and the people managing the most amount of spend. Like that was the space that you need to be. And yeah, I actually like I feel like I can call them buddies, you know? So it's really cool.
Well, I'm going to pull you away from that really nice space. Sounds like you had a great time, but I know you have opinions on another type of agency, um, which is
Uh-oh.
the agency model that only focuses on optimizing in the account. They don't do anything else, and they charge people a lot of money for that. Um, Go off.
Go off. Man, how okay, so I'll talk about an experience that happened recently. And from there I'll go off. But I was auditing an account and I was hired as a consultant for this brand, bootstrap brand, really great premium Sephora brands. And their D2C numbers are not looking real nice in terms of like their unit economics. They were not, they were barely break even. And so it's really interesting with a brand like this. And a lot of brands in the beauty space have this problem where they are featured on Sephora.com or Ulta.com and they're competing against themselves because Ulta also runs ads. So it's, the problem is here, how do we differentiate the offer? How do we push the subscription models more? So that's been like the real push here and the real strategy driver and also retention. However, and it could be from a number of just this is I'm not necessarily calling out the incompetence of the agency, but I think the model in which they charge was ridiculous. So it's standard agency fees is 15%, right, of advertising spend. But the way that they were doing it was like a baseline of 5,000, 15% for managing each account. Like, so 15%
Ooh,
of Meta, 15% of Google, 15. That's standard. Isn't that crazy? Like
yeah.
I can't like bring myself to do something like that. That's crazy. And this is why like I even have opinions on growing an agency to a certain extent. That's why it's like I'd rather stay a consultancy because there is a point of diminishing returns. And I worked with all of the white labeled for all of these agencies. I've seen the quality. It's not there after a certain amount of client number, like a certain amount of clients. So back to this one. So 15%, right? And it was a ridiculous number. And there was no creative strategy involved, and the creative strategy to me was subpar. It was like, here top, here's a foreplay board of like, not, I don't even know if it was a foreplay board. They like downloaded ads into a Google Drive, and it was like, here top ads in the DTC space. Recreate this. You have too much text in your ads. I'm like, what can I do with this information? Like, it's not practical in the least bit. And so I think the best agencies that do the best work, they're implementing creative strategy and then they're also creating the ads themselves because they understand like what is the messaging that I need to convey and how do I convey it visually. Um I'm not doing all like, for example, if the brand is, they have a really good creative team, maybe sometimes I'm giving them direction or maybe I'm asking them for raw assets so I can put something together. But like I have like a rule of thumb that we're making creatives at least biweekly, like a new idea. Sometimes we don't run it, we don't traffic it because it doesn't need to be trafficked based on budget. But at least we're constantly thinking in that regard. Or maybe we're putting more efforts on the landing page and creatives for the landing page, whatever the case is. It's really hard to structure deliverables in that way based on what they pay, but usually the awesome clients get it and they know that the impact is there and the revenue reflects that. Regardless, they weren't really doing any of that. And then I find that comes from like, the big agencies that are charging some sexy retainers. And I've worked with another agency too on behalf of a brand. And, this is a really big agency in New York. And their creative strategy was not there at all. And we were handling all the creatives in-house. So I'm doing all of it. And, like, I'm like, why are we paying them like a 20K plus retainer just to traffic an ad for us? And it just, I can easily upload that into the account. So I think, and this is my hypothesis coming into the Whalies event actually, and just like conversing with other agency owners. And I think agencies, dare I say, everything in marketing is dead. I think we'll die out. Like, media buying is dead, Meta is dead, TikTok is dead, SEO is dead. But I think the standard agency model is going to start to die out. In what I want to do and what I'm working to build is, and it's hard to make this scalable, but consultancy. So helping the agency actually consulting for the brand, I mean, and helping that brand build out a team and a creative workflow in house while also helping them manage and train their media buyer to do both, like, and then hire on a as needed basis to like check in and audit the account to see everything is moving forward, or like a weekly check in, whatever the case is. But I think that's going to be the most efficient solutions for bootstrapped brands, which I think all the cool ones are bootstrapped. The ones that I respect the most because they really know how to build. They know how to build a business. Like the way they run it is efficient AF. Um, but yeah, especially with the way the economy is going, we want to be as lean as possible. There is, like there's an argument and pushback with that theory that like hiring a full time employee not might not be as cost effective overall. But I think maybe if you start them off as a freelancer, right, and you kind of like see how they do and kind of grow from there. I think that model is a bit better than hiring like a really big agency, especially if you're a brand spending under 200K per month. You're hiring a really big agency, like you're at the bottom of the totem pole. At least work with like an agency that's a bit they want to prove themselves to you. You're working with a really hungry team. They have a small amount of clients, but they focus on quality. That right there is great. Because a lot of the optimizations, even for PMax and Google ads, like a lot of the optimizations that we're making are to the creative itself or to the ad copy, right? Because everything is automated. So where we're really going to move the needle is on the creative, is in the overall messaging, is on it's on analyzing the overall funnel and like maybe adding recommendations on how to improve retention or how to capture emails and how to build out that funnel and how to capture them, and then like analyzing based on that on in Klaviyo, like based on that email list, how many of them convert over time. Like measurement is a big piece of that too, which I think agencies don't do a good job with. They don't do a good job at full funnel measurement. They're just looking at like, here's a regurgitated data studio report. Here's an exported like report from Meta or from Google, and like here are your top performing keywords, or like here, like they copy that and put it on like a Google slide, and it's just like, this is not really telling me too much, especially when I have the overall numbers. Like this right here is just a small piece of the pie, and you're spending all of your effort into optimizing in this little black box. Um, yeah, so it's like I can't really make, if I were a business owner, I couldn't really make any strong decisions based off that alone.
And one trend that we see picking up a bit more, exactly like you said, is people bringing teams in house.
Hmm.
So, other than the obvious and what you've already discussed, what are some things that people should look out for, and things that they should actually look for in a consultant who's going to help them build a team in house?
I think with hiring a consultant, you want to see their track record. You want to, I always offer some kind of free audit, or just so that they can like, for example, yesterday, I'm hiring a trainer, and I'm sold. I went through like a free consultation yesterday, and what I thought, and I've hired trainers in the past, and where this trainer was different, although he costs a little bit more, he actually established my weak points immediately based on movements that I was making. So he had me jump off and also balance on one leg, to see like like where symmetry wise, like where am I weak in terms of like your right side versus your left side. So he's looking at, like, I know he's super advanced, right? And he determined like my right hamstring is a little weaker than my left, and my hamstrings in general are weak. And then also ankle mobility. Is that something that we need to work on? Like he's really assessing this, and he's like taking it. It seems super simple, but like to just analyze that. And then I also did like a squat, and I had had like a barbell over my head and he wanted to see how I was squatted. If I went over too much, that means I need to work on my back strength. And, I had a perfect squat, but um but if I did something weird with my ankles and he like demonstrated the movement, then I need to work on my ankle mobility. And then he like mentioned a couple other things with my knees with that went over my head. But I saw that he was really looking at, and in order for me to get the results that I want, he was really analyzing those foundations. So I think that's the same thing with hiring a growth consultant. If they have to really take the time to really look at your cost per goods and take a look at all of your, at least the ones that matter the most. And usually the ones that matter the most are, it's like where you're spending the most amount of time, energy, and money into. So for example, if you're spending a shit ton on Meta, like analyzing those holes, right? And then from there, it's like, oh, those holes are actually an indicator that you're organic. And you know what? Like your messaging is completely off. I want to, one thing I always look at is post-purchase survey data. And if you don't have that installed through like no commerce, then I'll have you install it. So then I can then analyze it. So then I can make, um, so then I can then recommend things. I don't recommend things out my ass, right? I'm always looking at data. So making sure, even if it's qualitative, making sure that they have whatever they are recommending, it's based off of something, like understanding their framework for creative strategy, I think is a really big one because that's such a broad thing nowadays. Like what's their framework? Because there's so many different frameworks. Mine is always based off of post-purchase survey data and also comments on organic and comments on the ads, right? And then from there, aggregating that and then looking at a different framework as to, like what are people really looking for? Is it safety? There's different modalities. Is it like safety? Is it acceptance? Like when you look at their framework and you're like, oh, they have like a complete thought process behind it. And they're looking at things outside of just like your ad account, that I think is really efficient. There's a growth formula that I really like from CTC that I use for an audit that it's totally escaping me. I think it's like visitors time conversion rate equals like, probably shouldn't have brought it up if I'm going to butcher it, but that formula is so great because it's looking at the overall funnel, like the quality of your visitors, your overall conversion rate, and then like in terms of your marketing power, like the money that you can use based on understanding your break even points, right? All of that equals growth.
Did you start your career in performance marketing or somewhere else?
It's interesting. So I started as a photographer, which is, we learn about marketing, but through a different kind of way, like I guess the old school kind of way. I took like a ton of marketing classes in college, and it was never, it was very outdated. And then I kind of got into the social media game for myself to promote my photography services as a wedding photographer. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole of like, oh, I need a website. I need to make sure that it converts. I need to make sure that I have a certain amount of like that I'm getting a certain amount of leads, and usually there's a correlation with the amount of leads versus with the kind of traffic that I send to the website. So I was starting to connect the dots, and then I started off working with an advertising agency. I got more into it, and I was like, "Hey, I'm tired of freelancing, and I'm tired of like inconsistent money." And clearly, like my passion wasn't there if I hated it that much. So I found a cool agency nearby, and it was Adventure Media, working with Isaac Rudansky. And I think I learned a lot working with Patrick Gilbert and Isaac. I worked really closely with Patrick because he managed me and my team. And working with Isaac, we didn't just run PPC ads, we did a little bit of everything. I was building out the landing pages, I was doing the copy. So I would manage ad accounts on the Facebook piece and then also Google. And then I would create all the ads myself. And then I would create landing pages. So I really had like full touch into this. And that was back in 2015, 2016. So that was at a time we ran really successful accounts without any organic, like anything organic, right? So those days are over. Completely over. Like you need that strong foundation like we were talking about before. It's weird how in the marketing world there's like factions of people that think in this way, because to me that's just it's kind of like a black and white thing. If you want to become a marketer, well then get good at marketing, which is a relationships game. And
Yeah.
the basis of marketing really It strongly depends on the foundation of organic. For example, I most of the agency owners that I've met and most of the practitioners within the paid media space, we all know that in order to be successful with advertising, there needs to be like a strong organic push, right? There needs to be a strong
Mhm.
foundation there. There needs to be a brand. So when I think of brand, I'm not necessarily thinking of logo. I'm not thinking of the I am thinking about the website experience, but more from a conversion rate optimization standpoint, right? I understood more than just optimizing within the ad account. Like that was the mindset and it came from them. Patrick would, like talk about leveraging automation more so than anything so that we can actually make business optimizations and look deep within the business and the mindset of becoming a business consultant first while leveraging Google ads, while leveraging Facebook ads or meta ads, while leveraging TikTok, while leveraging creative strategy, right? We're a business consultant first. So that mindset really was developed with them. And then having like this passion and going down these rabbit holes of attribution, of data modeling, um, when I broke off, after a couple of months, one of my clients that I was working with really intensely, wanted to work with me. Like they wanted to break up with Adventure. And I let Isaac know, I was like, hey, I don't want to do anything nasty behind your back. Like that's just not how I roll. And plus, I really respect him and I always will. And I let him know, like, is this okay? And if you don't think this is okay, like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't really care about the money that much. I was kind of broke, so I kind of did care, but I was integrity and all those lean things, whatever. Um, and he went ahead and he said, it was hilarious. He was like, yeah, go for it. I don't think you're going to break down their CPA, but I don't think you're going to lower their CPA because he had someone working on it that was like a literal chess genius. Like he was a
Mhm.
genius. And I think he's like a Mensa genius. He was like, if he can't crack it, I doubt you can. Biggest ego boost ever because I cracked it within 3 months easily. I was
Nice.
like, "Man, if I could do this, like, I could do anything."
I've I could listen to you talk about this for another hour. This has been super fun.
Rambling.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a pretty common sentiment among people listening. So, how do people get in touch with you? How do they follow you? How do they um, see if they can work with you? Where do people find you?
Well, I appreciate the plug. You can find me on Twitter at the Cyn Sandoval. Working on putting out more content instead of just working all the time. Also LinkedIn, Cynthia Sandoval. And also Instagram is more of a personal page, but I'm an open book. I really don't care. It's at the Cyn Sandoval as well. And my website is cynthiasmarketing.com. You can work with me and my team. Even if you just want to make sure that your business is heading in the right direction, an audit. And then if you need more assistance in management, we can talk. But yeah, that's where you can find me.